The purpose of this workshop and why we have been running this workshop for, I don't know, maybe 5 or more years is because one of the things that we find is that if we don't have the parents or the guardians um, connection to the student and the program, the student really struggles. So we bring the parent into the presentation so that you're also aware of what this experience is going to be for your student. And parents don't know what they don't know, right? So if you don't know the information, then we can't expect for you to know how to help your students. So we're bringing the information to you. So again, my name is Caroline Waters. I've been with the EOF program for about 28 years. I also attended this EOF program really long time ago, back in the 80s, as a matter of fact. So I just want to let you know how important this program is. It changed my life, and it certainly will change the life of your student as well. And so I'm going to move forward.
There we go. We can see it.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why had the little pencil up. Okay, so here is little icebreaker for parents. So this would be like, give it a couple of minutes. So fear factor, right? As a parent, I'm preparing my son for college next year. He's in 11th grade, and that should be my picture right there, right? With my hands in my mouth, like, oh my God. And I've been doing college for 28 years, and I'm still have this fear factor about my son going to college. I can help everybody else's children. When it comes to my child, I have this fear, right? So if you can put in the chat answering one of the two questions, like what challenges do you have in letting go of your baby? And what is your biggest fear about your child going to college? So Ms. Ferguson will read some of those answers so that, because I can't see them, but she can certainly monitor. And let me know what your thoughts are. So this is kind of, everybody thinking about their thoughts about letting your baby go from high school to college, and what is your biggest fear? Ms. Ferguson, do you see any other answers yet?
I do. Do you want me to read them off as they come in, or do you want me to wait? Okay.
Yeah,
So
because I can't see them.
yeah, so the first one is safety. Will she be okay?
Yep. That definitely has always been one of the concerns or fears from parents. True.
And that's what I have so far. So, whatever anyone wants to put in. Of course, we can always list off things, but we want to hear from you guys. Will she like the on campus living experience?
Yeah, I mean, most students, we're a very small campus. That's the good thing about it. We're like one big square block. So students barely have to cross the street to go to classes or leave. It's usually they have to either go to the School of Business or the dorms or go home. So we're a very small campus, which makes it very intimate. So most of our students, a lot of them really know each other. So I think that makes it a really good experience for them. They're not walking around like an RUID number. Students actually know each other by name. Professors know students by name. And that's a really good thing for a college experience. That's what I would say based on what I've heard from students.
So if you're a student and you're here and you're maybe your parent was unable to join your whoever you live with, you can also participate by saying, what do you think they're worried about for you for college? Maybe they have said some things out loud to you.
That's a good question.
Okay, so I got some responses. So My mom is definitely worried about expenses and making sure I get a great education that we can afford.
Mhm.
Another one is how difficult it's going to be. Another one is they're worried about me being away and safety. Will I make good decisions and will I use my common sense when making decisions?
That sounds like a parent statement or question. Common sense, use your common sense, right? We parents tell our children that all the time. Okay, so we don't have any more. We can move forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we can move forward. I thought those are
Okay,
some good ones. Those are some good ones.
they really are. Okay, so Summer Institute, the structure. I'm going to have Ms. Ferguson. Randy, if you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I did if you attended either of my presentations, I actually just did one today at 4 o'clock. But we also had one on Saturday. I did go over the agenda and structure a little bit of what this summer is going to look like. So I'm not going to talk about it too much here because I want to
Mhm.
have Miss Waters, do her presentation. But like I said, we did record everything, so if you missed that and you didn't get to see it, you'll definitely be able to see. But essentially, the program starts in July 6th and ends July 31st. So it's a full 4 weeks, and you can expect your student can be expect to be engaged every single day. So they will be meeting with their EOF counselor. They'll be participating in a class we call Raptor 101, which is essentially basically like a crash course on Rutgers, like how to be a Rutgers student. They'll be doing some outside like class time assignments, so they'll be working on an essay. They'll be doing group meetings with some of our peer coaches for some of our older EOF students who are working for us this summer. So they're going to be engaged in every single day. They're going to get a schedule the week before the program starts that's individualized to them, but they have to be fully engaged in the program. So there's a lot of responsibility this year on the student. There's always going to be responsibility as a college student, but because it's virtual, we don't have the ability like we do in previous years where they live with us for 5 weeks, which is typically how our summer program runs, to stay on top of them. So if a student doesn't show up to class, and it's the residential program, we see that, right? So we see it right away and we're able to go to their dorm and be like, hey, where are you at? But if someone doesn't show up online or they're not doing the work, it may take, if there's a delay, right? There's always a delay with virtual stuff. So there might be a delay between the time that happens and the time we find out about it. So there's going to be a lot of responsibility and onus on the student to make this experience as best as we can be. What I told the students today and on Saturday was that we will do the best on our end to make this experience as great as possible, but that they're going to have to meet us halfway to get there. Otherwise, it's not going to be what it could be for them. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Waters.
Okay, thank you. So why is the Summer Institute important? Why are we pushing it? Well, one, this is the time where we help your student make the transition from high school to college. So even though we're still in June, they haven't graduated yet, and they're in their last couple of weeks of school. But we want at the end of June, when they're done with high school, we want them to start thinking about college student. I'm a college student now, and I have to think that way. So the Summer Institute is going to help them understand what the fall would look like too. So they're not going to have, they go to high school and then they're done at 2:30 and they come, it doesn't work that way. They can have a class at 10 in the morning and another class at 4. So it's important that the Summer Institute, that they take part in it, take advantage of it, because we're going to teach them the ins and outs of the university, what the semesters look like. There's not 4 marking periods, there are 2 semesters. So what does that look like? So the Summer Institute helps to transition them mentally towards what the structure of a university, especially a research university, is like. Also, the EOF program is a requirement for students who are going to receive the EOF grant. So if they're not part of the Summer Institute, they can't get the funding later. But not only that, they're going to miss out and going into the fall semester without all the skills and everything that we're going to teach them in the summer. They would struggle. So they have to be present. They have to be there. They have to log in every time they're supposed to. They got to get the work done in the summer that's going to be assigned. Everything has to be done in the summer in order for them to be successful. What will it look like virtually? Well, This is new to all of us. So we've never done a virtual summer institute because we never had to. We never had a pandemic like this during, of this magnitude, where it has forced all of us to now be at home and the university physically shut down, even though we are still open virtually. And so, but we're going to get through this together. So any challenges that they're facing, whether it's with internet, their computer stops working, we need for them to communicate with us. And so they will get to meet their counselors starting tomorrow. And so each counselor, will share their contact information, and the student will know exactly who to reach out to should something go wrong. And so again, part of the Summer Institute is for us to develop relationships with our assigned students and also to help them get through this virtual thing. But the onus is still on the student. We can't make them log in when they're supposed to on the platform. We can't make them turn in the assignments. We can't make them, get up on time. Like, that's something they have to do on their own. And that's part of this transition from high school to college. What happens while they are home? Well, if they were in the Summer Institute, they would be home, on the weekends only. During the week, they would be with us because it takes that much work and that much time for them to focus. And so because they're not in the dorms in the summer, they're home with you, we really need for you as parents and guardians to provide that space for them. So some of the things that some students may be experiencing even while they're in high school, they help watch siblings, they work, they run errands, you want to do family trips and things like that. But the thing is, while they're home during the Summer Institute from July 6th to July 31st, you want that to be their time for school only. So, if they have to log in for, to meet with their writing tutor, and you want them to go grocery shopping with you, they can't do that at that time, because now that means that they didn't attend that session. So they can't be absent. So as parents, we need for you to look at their schedule when they receive it and have them put it on their own schedules, whether it's on a refrigerator at home, on a calendar, on their phones, on your phones, however you can help maintain that schedule and identify that space. What does that space look like? Like right now, I'm in my dining room. This is my space right now. I'm working remotely from home. This is my office right now. I have a desk, I have a computer, I have a printer. So I have to set this up because this is my space. So for them, they also need their space during the Summer Institute to be able to get their work done. Yeah. Also, they have to learn if they're working part-time, because we know that some individuals are working at different places that are open. They're going to have to monitor what that looks like. There's no way that they can work 30, 40 hours a week and be able to log into the platform when they're needed. So you need to be able to work with them and what does working look like during the Summer Institute, okay? The new college students, so the fall and spring semesters are gonna be different. Again, their schedules are gonna be different. They may have 4 classes or may have 5 classes. Classes may meet 2 days a week. Classes may meet 3 days a week and then 2 days a week. It could be all over the place depending on how they set their schedules. So, you could be expecting your student home when you get out of work at 5 or 6, and they have a class at 6. So you won't see them till 8:40 or 7:30 or something like that. So their schedules are going to completely change. What as your normal for their high school experience and time will drastically change because college and universities run totally different. So this is something that you can start preparing yourself for. And in the Summer Institute, we're going to talk about showing up. There's in a few more slides, I'm going to talk to you about what it means for them to be present in class, but they have to be present. And during the fall and spring, the counselors are not standing at the doors of their classrooms to make sure they're going. But we monitor because we get notices on students if they're not doing well, if they're missing class, and when they're doing well, right? So in the fall semester and spring semester, they're going to be even more independent because they now are responsible to do all this that we're doing in the summer on their own completely. And so there will be that new college student. All right, so the transition from high school to college, how do you get them started, right? I'm sure that's probably the question you're asking after everything you're saying. How do I get my child started, right? My student. So the terminology from child to student, when you start to see your child as a college student, the perception changes, right? We're used to that's my baby. And a lot of times it's very difficult for them to start doing things completely on their own and being more independent. But this is the time where, as parents, you will have the opportunity to start teaching them to be more independent. So for example, if you're the one that still wakes them up every morning for them to go to school, well, now would be a good time to teach them how to use, an alarm clock or the alarm clock on their phones. Teach them that independence so that when they're on campus or if they're moving and living on campus, whenever that happens, be able to always call them and say, you got to get up for class. So that would be a really good time to start helping them and looking at them as a college student. Educate yourself on what to expect. So if you haven't attended the virtual orientation, please make sure that you do. The orientation that students are required to attend, because we want them to attend, is to show you what Rutgers is all about. What do class sizes look like? What is the ratio of professors to students, of students to professors? What activities are available? What does the campus look like? There's so many different things that Rutgers has to offer, and orientation provides that. How do you register for classes? Who are the deans? Who is responsible for helping you? All of this would have been done on campus, but since it's virtual right now, it's even more important that you attend the virtual orientation so that these questions can be answered. And if you have already attended orientation and you have questions, then please let us know so that we can try to answer those questions or get you to the right individuals to have your questions answered. And please, please, please ask questions. Don't ever think, oh, I can't ask that question, or that question is dumb, or someone might have already asked. We'd rather that you ask us a question 3 and 4 different times or 3 and 4 times than not ask it at all. And the answer could have been something very simple. So we want to make sure that you know, for example, how does the academic year flow? So on our registrar's website, there's a university calendar. The university calendar, which we will also show your student how to access that in the Summer Institute, tells them when the university's closed, when the breaks are, things when finals are, midterms, and things like that. A lot of times, and Rutgers in particular does not run the same holidays that the high schools do. So in the fall, they get Labor Day and then Thanksgiving break. That is it. Any holidays in between, we don't have them. So sometimes parents may plan a trip. Let's say, oh, we're going to take a trip and go visit family for Thanksgiving. Well, that may not happen because they have classes before the Thanksgiving holiday, which is only that Thursday and Friday. They can't miss Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, because they could have a quiz or an exam or a paper due. So you have to educate yourself in how the university runs so that you're working your own family schedules along with your student schedule. That's just an example. There could be other questions you may have. This is my favorite here. And my staff laughs at me because I always tell them there's a little activity that where you answer questions and it tells you if you're a helicopter parent. And I refuse to take it because I already know I'm a helicopter parent, so I put myself through that activity. But a helicopter parent is one that hovers, over your child. And if your child's not doing the way you think they should do it, you just take over and do it. That's a helicopter parent, right? And I always say I'm a helicopter parent. But how much is too much? So for example, if you don't agree with a grade that your student has gotten, you can't call the professor and argue that grade. You can't show up at the university and say, I need to meet with this professor like you would have done in high school, right? Teachers will meet with you, the principal, the guidance counselors. At a university college level, you can't do that because there are FERPA laws that protect your student from that, to have that privacy. And so, there's too much hovering by parents sometimes, too much control that would actually put so much pressure on your student that it may impact the way that they perform academically. And we understand that's my baby. Hey, I have 2 sons and I say that they're always going to be my babies, right? But sometimes too much is too much. I apologize. My son just walked by with no shirt on. I am so sorry. That's one of my babies. So, but too much is too much, right? And that's always going to be your baby, but we have to get your baby to move on to be independent. So, for example, there are certain forms that waivers that your student can sign if you want to get information, not to talk to the professors, but to get information in how well they're doing or access to their grades and things like that. And we'll talk about it in another slide. And so, let's see. See, that's one of my little slides. Okay, so the big four, right? What does it mean, big four? So attending classes regularly. This is how you can best help support your student academically. They have to attend classes regularly. What does that mean? In high school, if they got sick and they were out, work was sent home, parents took it back to the school, they will get credit for it. It doesn't work like that at a university level. It doesn't work like that. They have to communicate with their professors. The professors will then at that moment decide, well, how many classes are you going to miss? Because they may very well say, you may have to drop this course because you're not going to be able to make up the work. Or a professor may say, okay, I'm going to work with you, give you an incomplete, and you can make up the work. Again, missing classes is something that is not common, is not acceptable. The student has to be very, very severely ill and still communicate with the professor, may still have to provide a note to the professor so that the professor will excuse the absence. And so this is just the way that it runs in any university or college, because anytime they're away from the classroom, it's information they've missed. And the professor is not just going to go over missed information if the student just decided not to show up for class and has no excuse. So it's very important that you continue to push your child to be very responsible when it comes to attending classes. They must attend every single class unless they're that sick in a hospital or something like that, it can't be that, well, I had to take my parents to an appointment. That is not going to be an acceptable excuse. So they have to be able to put in their minds that I must go to class every time, be on time, be present for every single class. And that will also help them develop these good study habits, right? Study habits include going to class. Study habits include, getting their work done. Most professors will say, I need you to read this article before you get to class. And another difference from that, from high school to college, is that in college, a lot of their work is done outside the classroom. So they'll go to the class, they get taught, but everything they have to do, papers, sometimes they have take-home exams, they have group projects, all that stuff is done outside the classroom, not during the classroom times. And so this is part of developing good study habits for them. Then we have managing time effectively, balancing school, work, and life. Okay, so what does that look like? Do they have to work? Does your student have to work? If they do have to work, then usually the average time for a high school, college student to be successful is no more than maybe 20, 25 hours a week. Anything more than that is going to impact with their education, because there's just so much work that they have to do. There's always a paper, there's always an exam, there's always a quiz, there's always a study group, there's always a project that they're working on. And so they have to learn how to begin to balance schoolwork, classes, life, right? Because they have life, and then their own work for their jobs. So all of this is managing the time effectively. During the Summer Institute, the counselors are also going to talk to them about what does that look like for them, right? Each person is different. So we're going to talk about that. And then we also want them to get to know faculty. They have to get to know their professors. There's just no way a student can go through a class and when you ask them, well, what's your professor's name? I don't know. They have to get to know their faculty. They have to get to know, their professors, like what, their research is, when they're in the classroom, they have to get to know how that professor works. Some professors don't allow students late in their classrooms. Is that the type of professor that you have? Then you better make sure that you get to class on time, or at least have time to get in that classroom. So they have to get to know their faculty. And one of the reasons is because they need to establish relationships with them. Because should they decide to go for an internship or employment or grad school, these are the same faculty that are going to write those letters of recommendation. So it's important that students learn to develop relationships, these academic relationships with their faculty. And then seeking help early. So the way that our tutoring center works, it's not that once they're failing that they get seek tutoring. They can actually have tutoring sessions, at least twice a week for one of the courses that they're taking, just to be able to brush up on the information. Or maybe they're struggling with a math, like, before I take the test, I really want to meet with a tutor. So they're able to seek that tutoring early before exams or before they actually start having challenges in the classes. So it's important that they also have that mentality that I'm going to tutoring not because I'm not doing well, but because I want to make sure that I continue to do well. Okay. College structures and supporting student success. All right. So one of the things that as parents you want to know is, what do colleges have to offer? What do they have to offer your student? Why is this college so important for your student? And why should they come here? So these are just some of the things Rutgers has to offer. They just have a lot, but these are the main ones. So we offer career services. So from the moment they come in as freshmen, we start connecting them with career services. So if they want to be a doctor, okay, well, how many years is that going to take? What is the best major for you? What does the MCAT look like? What scores do you need? What grades do you need in specific classes? Like, we start connecting them to career services so that they have a projection, like a light at the end of the tunnel that they're striving to. Academic advising, even though they have an EOF counselor, your student is also assigned an academic advisor. That academic advisor is responsible for making sure that they're taking the right classes based on their curriculum, making sure that they're registering for the classes, making sure that they're keeping what we call satisfactory academic progress, that, they're taking classes, completing classes, with the amount of financial aid they have, and things like that. The advisors also work with students when they want to drop a class because they're not doing well. But let's talk about what that means. So they're there to advise the student, and they're the ones responsible for helping them get towards their degree. Academic support and advocacy, that's a lot has to do with us. We have an entire center that we hope, once we're all done with this pandemic and we're back on campus, we hope that you come to visit so you get a chance to see what the center, Student Success Center, looks like. We have EOF, there's TRIO, there's the tutoring center, there's the disabilities office is there. There's so much that we have to offer, and students have a well-rounded support system that they almost cannot fail unless they just don't show up. And we advocate for the students. And so if a student, let's say, is struggling, or maybe something's going on at home and they need to take a break, or maybe they need to take some time, we advocate for them with the right individuals, and we get your student in front of those individuals to help them navigate whatever challenge they're experiencing. We also want students to get involved, right? Attending college is not the only thing. A lot of jobs, graduate schools are always going to ask, well, what did you do in college besides going to class? So they need to get involved. There's so many co-curricular experiences they can have on campus. We have student organizations, we have sororities, we have fraternities, we have experiential learning, we have study abroad. There's so much on the campus that they can get involved with. And of course, we want them to get involved in leadership positions, because there's even training for that the university offers students so they become really good leaders, and teach them about budgets and things like that. So it's really, really important that they get involved. Sorry, those are my graphics. All right, so how will I pay for college? So I just did a workshop yesterday, understanding my financial aid. So it went into a lot more detail. Ms. Ferguson did record the workshop, so it is available for you to review in case you missed it, or if you were there and you want to watch it again and have some questions later. At the end of this presentation, I will share my contact information, so you can certainly reach me if you have any questions. But this is a very brief one here. So how do we pay for college as a family? Well, you have to develop a financial plan. In order to do that, you need to understand how financial aid works. How does it work, right? So in that financial aid presentation that I did, we talked about what grants and loans your student will be eligible for, and how that goes from the FAFSA onto the institution. So again, that workshop was recorded and will be available to you. But then students have to learn how to balance school and work, and how to make that happen. It's like a balancing act. We talked about earlier, I said that the most that they should work is 20 to 25 hours. A student that works 30, 35, 40 hours is usually not very successful academically because it's just they're so busy working that they don't have time to get their schoolwork done. And because colleges and universities, especially Rutgers being a research institution, it is not easy by any means, but it's doable. But they have to realize, okay, how much work can I actually do and still be successful in my classes? Because the idea is that they get a career. So this should be their priority, but they may have to work, and that's their reality. But how can we make both happen? And counselors will also have those conversations with your student as to, hey, let's try to figure something out, okay? Also, HESA, so the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, you file the FAFSA, then HESA is the department where all that information is housed, and they're the ones that have been communicating with you if you had to submit documents. Now, there's a difference between HESA and the university. So HESA might have asked you for the same documents Rutgers asked you for, but they're two different entities and we don't share documents. So you probably wonder, like, I just gave that to HESA, so why is Rutgers asking me for it? Because we can't share documents. And so HESA is the one that monitors the FAFSA, which is that infamous form that you completed. And by you completing it is why your child is here now. And so how does HESA work? Again, that was part of that recorded workshop yesterday, and I went into detail about it. And of course, what do you need to know? What do you need to know about how to finance your child's education is a conversation we need to have. So in the next slide, we're actually going to look at that too. So one thing, as we know, with us going virtually, we need to talk about technology and social media, but in two different aspects. So one, let's talk about, high school students tend to post anything, right? So they post stuff, they, post themselves, in pictures and doing things, and that's all fine, as high school students. But as college students, they have to be very mindful what they're posting. Counselors, we're going to talk to our students about that as well, because when you're in college and then you're applying for jobs or internships, they may do a background check, which could include, they will look at your social media, and you don't want there to be inappropriate social media usage, right? So that's going to be something that we'll talk to your student about. So if you see them changing their social media, deleting stuff, that's why, because we want to make sure that it's appropriate. But at the same time, we want to make sure that they have technology during this virtual summer institute. Do they have proper internet at home? If the internet goes out, what is the plan B? Do they have, do you have internet on your phones? Is there a local library that maybe, as we get into the summer, maybe open? So many things are opening now. But if they have issues with technology, what do you do? Do they have a laptop that's a working laptop? Do you have a printer at home in case? I'm a person that I still need to, turn pages. So when I read an article, I can't read it off the internet. I need to print it. Sometimes students are like that, where they need to print something in order to read it. So do you have that type of technology at home to help your student, to help support your student during the summer institute and beyond the summer institute? And do they have, the space that they need at home? In the summer institute, they would have been in a classroom. Then they would have been in the dorms. They might have been in the technology lab. But at home, where is their space? Is it the dining room? Is it their bedroom? Is it the porch? Is it their patio? Where is their space? So you want to make sure that you navigate that with your student. This next slide, a lot of our presentation to parents have to do with what we've seen historically with students, not just EOF, but students on campus, period, right? So students sometimes, we find that they get very stressed out, especially when it's almost time for finals. And I'm sure it happened in high school when they have finals or they have papers, they could get stressed out because they're like, oh my God, I have so many classes, so many papers due for classes, and they could get stressed out. And so you want to talk to them about what does that look like? I'm sure you've seen it in your students. You want to talk to them about how can we manage the stress, because it's only going to intensify because their classes are going to be harder, right? And so you want to make sure that you have these conversations, and then recognizing too, if your child is suffering from depression, when you hear them say things like, I'm done, I quit, I can't take it. Well, these are the conversations. You want to say, okay, hold up, wait a minute, let's talk about this, because maybe you need to talk to someone. That would definitely be their EOF counselor first, because we have telehealth on campus, where we have support on campus that will actually do a telehealth through a computer with a student to be able to help them manage their stress. If they're dealing with depression, help them manage their depression. And so health services will be available for our students in the summer. But we don't know, because we're virtually. If they were on campus, we can see it, right? Oh, I think you're a little stressed out. Let's talk about that. But we're not there. You're the ones that are going to see them at home. So if you see them feeling stressed out, or if you see them feeling like they're depressed, please reach out and let us know so that we can help them navigate through this, because this is normal. It can be normal for a college student to feel stressed or feel a little depression when they're navigating through college. We also want to make sure that they're having healthy relationships. Every university now has a Title IX on their campus. And I won't go into detail with it, because Title IX could be something we can talk about for hours. But part of the orientation that your student will be attending or has attended, they did talk about Title IX and what that means, is making sure the students on campus are being safe. They're not being harassed. They're not being stalked. They're not having uninvited, conversations and things like that. That's what Title IX is to protect students. And so, to protect them and to make sure that they're acting appropriate as well. So that's what Title IX is. And then sometimes, unfortunately, we have students that are dealing with stress or depression and don't deal with it in healthy ways. And so sometimes there's substance abuse that can happen. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, Rutgers doesn't have issues like that. Every college and university has issues concerning substance abuse. This is why in our health services, we do have a substance abuse counselor that works with students. This is just a reality. And from one parent to other parents out there, I'm going to be as real as possible, because I would do you a disservice if we didn't talk about everything. So yes, sometimes students, will use drugs, and sometimes they do it because they're stressed out, but sometimes they do it because it's a social thing. Either way, it's not right. And so we'll talk to them about what this means and how to help them not be a part of that. College health services, as I said, they are available to our students on campus, off campus right now, virtually. In the Summer Institute, they will be available. So we want to make sure that if you see something, parents, please reach out to us and let us know so that we can help your student navigate. Campus safety, the university has police officers that go through the Camden County Academy and are full-fledged police officers. We also have 4 security companies that we work with. So when you visit our campus, and hopefully you will, when we're all back on campus, you're going to see security guards in uniforms, but then you'll also see full-fledged police officers, RUPD, around campus and so forth. So the campus is pretty safe. What we also have from our RUPD is that they do workshops for students on campus safety. So they'll talk to students like, okay, you live in the dorms, you don't go to the 7-Eleven by yourself at 12 midnight. You don't do that anywhere. So, they'll talk to students about having campus safety. We also have police officers on campus that are very supportive to our program. And anytime we say, hey, can we have this workshop? They will present a workshop, and give them tips on being safe. They even do defense type of workshops, all kinds of stuff. But the campus itself, parents, is a pretty safe campus, okay? EOF Raptor Connect newsletter for parents. So this is a newsletter that we have created. Ms. Ferguson is actually putting the link, I see it right there, the link on the chat. You have to sign up for it. We're never going to send you something that you don't allow us to have you sign up for. So you have to go on that link and then give us, fill out the form, which we need a viable email, and you will receive the newsletter. You'll start receiving it on June 22nd, just before the Summer Institute. You'll receive it during the Summer Institute, and then you'll receive it during the first year of your student at Rutgers. You'll get it monthly starting in the fall semester. So that way it keeps you abreast of what's going on campus, when you know what your students are doing. Like, okay, it's time for midterms, so maybe check in with your student. How are your midterms going? It's time for the holidays. We're going to be on break. Have a great, safe holiday. So that way you are aware of what's going on campus. What we can't do with the newsletter is provide any personal information about the student unless that FERPA form is signed, which we talked about, but we just provide parents with information that you may want to know about what's going on campus. Parents, how can you stay involved, right? So we definitely want you to come on campus, if at all possible, when we're all back in. So attending campus events, there's all kinds of stuff that Rutgers does. We have Rutgers Day, we have open house, we have homecoming, where we have things on campus. Sometimes alumni comes on campus, and all this stuff, is free. And so we ask parents to, come to campus when events are taking place. So you get a chance to meet the faculty and staff that are there, and then get to physically see the campus. So by all means, please stop in when we're all back on campus. And here's the two, understanding the federal laws, the two forms that we were talking about. So the FERPA laws is what prevents you as parents and guardians from getting information from us. Like, you couldn't call us and say, is my child or my student going to class? Can't tell you that. Are they failing classes? Can't tell you that. So the FERPA form is a form that your student has to sign, giving you permission to have these conversations. There's still parameters within that, but at least you can have certain information. But again, your student has to be willing to sign that form. It's then in our system. So if you call, counselors can see that it's there, and then we can navigate through it. The HIPAA are the forms for health services. So if your child needs to start seeing someone in health services, or you want to know they're seeing somebody, then that form needs to be signed. And even again, within that, there's still restrictions, but the student still has to sign that form, waiving, giving you the access to their information. There are certain parent associations. So we don't have like a specific parent association where you come to campus for these meetings. We don't have that on the Camden campus. But our Office of New Student Programs, which has been communicating with your student about the virtual orientations, the placement exam, and things like that, that's ONSP, Office of New Student Programs. They have that website there. You're more than welcome to please take pictures of the screen as you see it, so that you can then refer back to these links. I will also have these links on the parent newsletter if you choose to sign up for it. Then the link right under that is the EOF newsletter. Ms. Ferguson put that in the chat, but it's there again. If you want to take a picture of it, you are certainly welcome to do that. Okay, so this is for any questions on this specific presentation. That's my email there, cfelice@camden.rutgers.edu. During the Summer Institute, I will be your Summer Institute. I will be the parent contact person. So if you have questions, either during the Summer Institute or during the academic year, you're more than welcome to email me. But during the Summer Institute, from July 6th through July 31st, on Wednesdays, I will be available from 12 to 1 in my WebEx chat room. WebEx is the platform that we're using now, and it will be open. So you can just click right on that link, and it will bring you right into the chat room. I will be available during Wednesdays from 12 to 1. If parents that may be working, and let's say I can't talk during that time, I can only meet at 6 on a Tuesday, then I can certainly make myself available on a Tuesday evening for an hour if that works better for parents. But if you have any questions, ask parents during the Summer Institute. I'm your go-to person. So that is my WebEx chat room, and it stays the same. It's not like Zoom where you have to have a certain number to get in and all that. You don't need it. With WebEx, you just click right on there and it brings you right to my chat room. So again, please feel free to take a picture of it now before I close out the presentation, so that you have that information. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3, gone. Any questions? We're going back to
Thank you, Mrs. Waters. I do want to bring up one question that came up earlier in the presentation. I did answer it, but I do want to put it out there to everyone because I think it's an important question. So the question was about students working, and you had mentioned this in your presentation about that their schedule can't be what it is right now, right? So they might be, I mean, I'm assuming if they're in high school, they're not able to work all day, every day. But even though our summer program is going to be virtual, and admittedly it's going to be less intensive than years past, right? So in years past, our program is 5 weeks. They live on campus and they are not allowed to work during the summer institute. So they can go home on weekends and work, but Monday through Friday, they are with us, right? And so, well, this year we can't really do that, right? We're not doing a on-campus program, so we can't tell students that they can't work. And there is a bit more flexibility in the schedule, but we have over 70 students this year. So we have to pre-schedule a lot of our meetings. So their Raptor 101 class will be pre-scheduled. Some of their one-on-one meetings will be scheduled, and because we can't offer everyone the ability to make their own schedule, it's just going to be crazy and it's going to not work out, right? So when they receive their schedule is their schedule. They got to make it happen. I did show students today in my own presentations a sample schedule, but they have to make sure that they are engaged when they're asked to be engaged, essentially. I do encourage a student, the only place there might be a little bit of flexibility is their one-on-one meetings with their EOF counselor. If they're like, I really, really can't do, I don't know, like 5 p.m. or something, then I encourage when they meet their EOF counselor this week, they reach out to them privately. But it is also up to the discretion of their EOF counselor. So if they're like, this is going to be when the meeting is, this is when the meeting is, right? But that's probably the only thing that's flexible. Everything else has to be pre-scheduled. And we have to do that because that's the only way organizationally it's going to work. Their full participation is required. So if they don't participate, then they can lose their spot in EOF. And so I just want to make sure that as you guys go over the next few weeks and you think about the commitment, that you're really committed to the process.
Yeah. And I know it may seem a little bit difficult because everything is so different. And since they're still in high school now, to start talking about what does July 6th through July 31st look like. And again, Ms. Ferguson said they're going to receive their schedules before they start the Summer Institute so they can work around those schedules. But the important thing is that, yes, it may seem a little bit tedious and, a little bit inconvenient, but this is a short inconvenience for a long-term, effect, right? Because come the fall semester and on for the next 4 to 5 years of their college education, they will receive not only the EOF grant, but more importantly, the supports that they're going to need to get through college. So counselors are something like high school guidance counselors, but at a college level. So we're always there. We're there for, making sure they're registering for the right classes. We're making sure that, their financial aid, if they have issues, they didn't get the grant, what's going on? If they're having, struggles with a professor, if, they need food, we have a food pantry. If this, if that, we're the go-to people for them. But they can't have that support system if they're not part of the Summer Institute. So it might be short-term discomfort for long-term gain, but it's a really big gain. You're looking at 4 to 5, maximum 6 years of this type of support. It shouldn't take them 6 years to graduate from college, but it could. There are students that it does take them 6 years, and that's fine. But as long, as they commit to the program and go through the Summer Institute, we will support them, for those years to come. So like I said, short-term discomfort for long-term gain. And that, that is something that you really, as parents, and me as a parent, I would want that, for my student, because who else is going to have that support? Remember, they have advisors, but the advisors don't do what EOF counselors do. And we see only EOF students. So it's not like, other students on campus have access to our services. This is only for EOF students. So you want to make sure that they take advantage of it. If anyone has any questions, you can certainly unmute yourself. That's another thing. You don't have to put it in the chat. You can certainly unmute yourself and ask a question.
Okay, if there's no questions, you all have Mrs. Waters' email. Please feel free to email her. If you have a private question.
Absolutely.
Um, And so, yeah, if you have like a private question, please feel free to reach out to her, and she's happy to help. You're also welcome to reach out to me as well. We will, like I said, we'll put this presentation online with all of our other recordings from the orientation. The newsletter, I encourage you to sign up if and we're going to send out an email with the link as well in case you weren't able to access it in the chat. But I think it'll be a great resource for the summer and going into the students' first year about some of the things that'll come up as, this transition continues. Um, but if that's it, everyone is free to go. And I want to thank you, Mrs. Waters, for a wonderful presentation today.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks for attending. Thank you.